a UBI costs $3 trillion to do so. It means that governments are forced to either increase taxes or cut the remaining welfare systems. This means that it has two effects. One is inflation. It's because they drop the argument that progressive taxes that are necessary to fund for a UBI will force corporations to increase their prices, which puts the burden on the consumers, which leads to inflation. This has empirically been proven by multiple studies that we conducted in places like Iran, where it led to more inflation. This means that the Mexico example doesn't even apply because, one, it was too small of a scale, an argument that they didn't even answer, and two, their method was problematic because it dealt with supply and demand, not necessarily the price of the goods that went up or down. And this means that inflation will lead to more poverty because it means that as the economy goes down, people have less opportunities to find a job, which means to find a job and sustain themselves, which means that all of their impacts will be exacerbated. In addition, it'll lead to more structural violence. The second argument that will happen is it'll trade off with other welfare programs that are affected. They have conceded arguments like how healthcare, public education, as well as food stamps are all helpful at contributing to solving for poverty. The fact that they trade off with these programs means that the status quo is better. Welfare might not be perfect, but the fact that it's shown to decrease poverty in the past means that you shouldn't just eliminate it. Next, they talk specifically about how we should weigh our morals, but we're talking about how we should weigh the consequences of our actions to determine whether our actions are moral. And next, they talk specifically about how people will have the right to quit work and things. But then the problem is that a UBI is not enough. People will still have to go to their jobs. It's only a couple $1,000s, which means that people will still be forced to work, which means that all of their impacts will happen again. And next, they talk about alienation and justice. Remember that these people will still remain poor because as inflation and the economy goes down, it'll force structural violence levels to go up. In addition, they can't solve for the larger system of capitalism. I don't think they understand the fundamental premise that politicians will use this one example of a UBI and use it to not do any more like liberal